I think the main staple for missionaries is going to be souflace. Like I said, that is a pita. They have it's plain yogurt. They call it kos. It really is just plain yogurt for us. They slather that on everything, and first time I went on my mission, it tasted gross. I didn't like it. By the end of my mission, I didn't have a meal without it. I was right. I mean, I dip everything in it, and it just tasted great, and I miss it now. So they'd have this pita. They put that kos on it, the yogurt, and they'd put tomatoes, cucumbers, and onions, and I think lettuce. I can't remember. I think there was lettuce. Some places had lettuce, some didn't. And then they had this giant, just big spit of meat. It was frozen in the morning. They put it out, and it would just spin right next to a flame and just cook all day long, just right in the open air. Which for us is weird, but to them it was normal, and they really would just. So they'd make the souflace, and they'd go up to this meat and just get this big long knife and just slice it, and it'd just fall right onto it, and fold it up and hand it to you. And you could put mustard or ketchup onto it, or really anything you wanted. But just one. And when I say that souflace, it wasn't like a folded taco. It was like you hold it like that, and you usually had to get a fork and eat stuff out of it before you could eat like a taco, because you couldn't fit your mouth around it. They were big, and they were only $1.50, and it was just amazing. Personally, my favorite food was something called the burek. I probably had one of these a day because I could go to any bakery, which that was another thing I loved. I'll tell you in a minute. Any bakery, and they'd have burek, and so they'd get this very super thin layer of pastry. It was layers of pastry, butter, and butter, and then they'd put, so after like 4 or 5 layers of that, they'd put really anything you wanted to. They had different things like tomato and onion to meat and onion to they have similar things with like chocolate in them, but it was really just pastry, butter, whatever they wanted, like meat or whatever, pastry, butter, whatever they wanted, pastry, butter, and it was just big, thick, and they would come out in like almost these pie, and they'd give you this big chunk of it, this big slice, and that was like a quarter, and toss them a quarter, and just loved it. It was so good, and that's probably the food that I miss most, because I've tried making it in Albania, or here, not the same. Don't know what I'm doing wrong, just doesn't taste the same. So they'd have that. I think also another thing in Albania, or I guess this is mostly Europe, is they'd have bakeries on every corner. It's super fresh bread. They would make it fresh every day. I got spoiled because here we buy a loaf of bread and we make it last for a week. After a day, they're like, "Oh, that's old. Throw it away." they throw it in the way and go buy another loaf of bread for 50 cents because they're 50 cents is buy a big loaf of bread, and it's just the freshest bread. I didn't throw a lot away because I'd usually eat it. I'd probably eat 3/4 of a loaf a day myself. It was really delicious. So they'd have stuff like that was like staple that you'd eat every day. I remember one time I was on a P day with a bunch of missionaries. We went to this castle and we're having fun and just hopping around this castle, just playing games and taking pictures, just goofing around. And then we went to this restaurant that was like in the castle. And this server was like, "Oh, y'all are Americans? I'm gonna help you out. I'm gonna have you like a real Albanian dinner." And so he brought out pizzas and like pastas and just delicious stuff. And then a couple of us, he just put down this, like in front of me, he put this big lamb head. It was a boiled lamb head, and I was like, "Why did he get a pizza?" I was like, "Wait, what made you think I wanted this?" So I was like, and for them, usually they don't have much money, so if they give you food, they expect you to eat it. And if you don't, then they're somewhat offended, I guess. You don't want to do that. So I was like, "Okay, I'll eat it." So I got over it, and I cut into it, and it actually wasn't bad. That cheek muscle was super tender and delicious. And so that was, I think, the weirdest thing I ate was just the tongue, the cheek, and the brain. But not bad. It was like I wouldn't be opposed to doing it again. That's for sure. So I mean, that's food in Albania. They ate a lot of bread. They'd eat. Oh, they have fresh vegetables on every corner, and fresh vegetables and fruits. So they'd have the stores, and right next to them, right outside, they'd have stacks of vegetables and stuff that you could just buy for super cheap, and just super fresh food all the time. And they would have, whatever they're eating, they'd take a bite of what they're eating and a bite of bread. Bite of what they're eating and then bite of bread. They loved that bread, and I understand why. I did the same thing. They had this one drink that like I'm from Texas, so people down there, they drink sweet tea in the summer. They just guzzle it down like water. In Albania, they drink something called dhal. Interesting. It's interesting. It wasn't my favorite. By the end of my mission, I could stomach it, but it definitely, I didn't see the appeal, but they loved it. And if they love it, they love it. That's awesome. It's basically that yogurt I was telling you about, the kos. They'd get kos, they would strain all the liquid out of it. They'd add salt and then mix in a little yogurt, put it out in the sun for a couple hours, and then that would be dhal, and then they would chill it and give it to you. And a couple times, man, I remember this one super sweet lady, just absolutely loved her. She was a member. We'd go over and teach her all the time, like once a week, because she kind of needed it, but she just loved the missionaries. And every time she'd give us this big glass of dhal, and she'd sit down and just gulp it down, and I'm just sitting here like trying to get it down. And the first time I gave it to my trainee, I told him about it, and I could see it on his face. But he took it, and I just saw his face go straight red. Just like, how am I supposed to swallow this? But towards the end of my mission, it wasn't bad. I could do it. It's not something I would drink every day, but I saw why they did it, because it was something different than water, and water over there actually it's not like super drinkable. They could drink it if you needed to, but you definitely wanted to buy a water bottle, and people would, because they were 50 cents at every corner, same thing. So cost of living was super low, but they loved that dhal. They loved it.